What's going on, people? Jeff here. I decided, excuse me, for the video aspect of these videos, if you will, I'm just going to go full-on hardcore lazy and record OBS, recording OBS, right? Because I need to come up with something consistent to do with the videos. And I don't want to have to render for 2.5, 3, 4 hours a video every time I make one, right? Because that's too long out of my day if I'm making one of these every day. So I need to be able to just record it and upload it. So we're going to stare at OBS. Today I wanted to talk about my time at STC, Shelby Training Center. Just to kind of give a little background and, talk about myself a little more. Because I think one of the things I was thinking about is this. Like, I'm doing this series because I think I have unique views on things, and it might lead people to start thinking about things, and it might lead to a change. A person might benefit. But part of that being effective requires having an understanding about who I am and where I'm coming from. And so that's why throughout these videos, I'm going to disperse little bits of, information about myself, right? With the caveat that this is me talking about myself, right? So there's always something weird about doing your own biography. Because there's always this kind of assumption that we want to paint ourselves in the best light. Or, even if we're not going to totally, just lie and make up stuff and then, totally paint ourselves out to be a hero, we might still do little things where, instead of saying, we punched the guy 5 times, we might say, I only hit him once, and it was blah, blah, blah. Right, like to try to mitigate, something we did in the past that we know is not very, not viewed as very good, right? So it's always kind of weird telling my story from that perspective. And then there's also like I don't like people feeling sorry for me, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me, so I kind of have an aversion of telling people about aspects of my life that might lead to people being sympathetic, or both in the sense of I don't want 3 things. I don't want people to be sympathetic and change their behavior. I don't want people to think I'm trying to be sympathetic so that they change their behavior, like fishing for sympathy, basically. And 3, I don't want people to be sympathetic because I don't want my insincerity to go away as a result of, getting some kind of good feeling about people being from people giving me sympathy, right? So those are kind of the 3 things I want to avoid, and why I don't like really talking about myself. And this matters because people I feel are going to be sympathetic about my story with STC. I'm gonna preface this by saying that I do not blame my mother for anything that I'm about to talk about. I don't know. I don't think she listens to these, but in case she does, I'm getting that out the way, right? Rather I kind of blame just the system and circumstance, right? And it'll all make sense after I tell my story. But anyways, when I was 12, And this was, I believe, let's see. Oh, how old was I? Let's do the math. Yeah, 1986. Or no. Yeah, no, go back. 2000, because it was the year 2000, I believe. Or it might have been 2001. But see, 2001 was 9/11, and it's like I don't remember being locked up at then. And I did turn 12 when I went from 12 to 13 when I was locked up. So 2000 minus 1986 equals 14. So no, 1999 it was, because I turned 13. So it was 1999. And to preface this, I had a history of getting arrested. I've been arrested 7 times. 5, I think, were for some kind of assault. 1 was for theft, and 1 was, or no, was it? There was only 1 theft, right? And that was dumb. Like, I legitimately think that was dumb. I took money out of a change jar in our house. I'm not even going to go into that. That was dumb. That shouldn't have happened. But anyways, that's not the thing I'm here to talk about. 7 times. So I had issues. Actually, I think 2 of those times were after. But anyways, so here's what happened. I was at my house. I was playing video games, as you do when you're 12. And I had my window open. And my friends wanted to pull a prank on me. And so I'm sitting in my room playing on the Super Nintendo. And they come up with Super Soaker guns. They point them into my window and they spray. And like just a flippin' stream of water, whoosh, goes across my room, hits the wall on the opposite side. And I'm just like, what in the flippity flip? So, I go out, I run out to confront them. As soon as I open the door, they start egging me. Like they're busting me with eggs. And I'm like, alright, y'all want to play that game? And so I go in, and I grab a paring knife, which is like this little itty bitty, it's like the smallest knife you can get. And the plan is to, like, scare them. Like, ah! And when I go to do that, I open the door. And as I'm opening the door, Fletcher, one of my friends, he comes in. Like he comes in right as soon as I open the door. And he doesn't know I got a knife in my hand. I end up dropping the knife because I'm like, I didn't expect someone to be right in my face. And it lands on his shoe. And, everybody scatters. And I didn't think anything of it. And then, later he tells his parents what happened. And of course, I mean, you know how it is, right? Like, they hear the story and they imagine one thing, and reality is something completely different. And then I go to jail, right? Go to juvenile. Several things I want to talk about. Just several things that I noted occurred between that incident and when I actually got to STC. First of all, nobody tells you that you're allowed to defend yourself. Nobody. Like, nobody talks to you and says you can say guilty or not guilty. None of that. Literally, they just tell you to agree with the judge. Right? So I'm 12. Everybody says, oh, you need to tell them what you did and blah, blah, blah. And there's no concept of like, oh, you can defend yourself and you can explain stuff. No, none of that shit was ever given to me. It was just, you need to go. You need to tell them you did this act, and then they're going to deal with it. So it's like, okay, whatever. I tell them, I agree. Yeah, totally did the aggravated assault. Which, I mean, if I could go back, I would be like, no. Like, I would fight it all the way. Why the fuck would I agree? Pardon my language. I need to keep my language. Why would I agree? Why would I agree and say I did that? Are you crazy? But yeah, so that was the first. Because I'll tell you the end of the story now. I don't trust the system or the police in general, and it's going to have to do with a lot of the stuff that I'm about to explain. So the first of all is they don't tell you that you can defend yourself, right? It never comes up. You're arresting a child and you're going to convict him of something, and it's never explained to him at all that he has a defense and that he can defend himself and that he can object to what is being done to him. Nobody ever tells you that. That's first thing. So the judge is like, all right, cool, whatever. We're going to give you 3 months. Right? So they're going to give me 3 months. So I sit in juvie for 2 weeks. And then I go to STC, Shelby Training Center. Shelby Training Center is a prison, is basically what it is. Just to give a few, stats. I was there 8.5 months. I was on lockdown 23 hours a day, 23 hours and 30 minutes every day. Basically solitary. I was in solitary for about 6 months. Because it was around the 3rd month mark where I kind of just said, fuck it, there's no more cooperating Jeff anymore. And I'll get to that. But, I get there. And at first I'm on a unit called Foxtrot, which is the delinquent unit. And they put you there. And I think they had me there for 2 weeks. And then they moved me to Golf, which is another unit. And Golf is not locked down. Golf is the doors don't have locks on them. You can come. I mean, you're still locked into the unit. You can't go out. You can't go into the hallway. You're still in a big room with cells on both sides, right? With a watch, a guard office in the middle. But you can come and go kind of as you please. They lock the doors whenever it's bedtime, but you can come out and do stuff. And I was there for I want to say about a month or so, a month and a half maybe. And then I started acting up. And then I got put on Foxtrot. And I want to say I got back onto Golf one more time and then put back onto Foxtrot permanently. And when I was... So, yeah. And then I got put on Foxtrot. And then after 3 months was up, they were like... well, no, you're going to be here indefinitely. There is no set date. You don't leave after 3 months. You're going to be here indefinitely. When I talked to the counselors and stuff, that's what they said. You're going to be here indefinitely. So I'm 12 years old, and I think, well, I'm in prison for life now. I done... apparently throwing a paring knife is going to get you life in prison, right? So, and I mean, it was prison, right? The cell I was in was basically, it had the slit window. It had a metal bed that was bolted to the ground, a metal frame with a mat, a pillow, and this linen thing. There was a metal locker with a little table and a little swivel, this stool that could it was on an arm that could come out from under the table. There was the mirror, which was a shiny piece of metal. It wasn't glass. And then the toilet, and then the sink, and then the window or the door had a square window, right? And you're in there for 23 hours a day, 23 and a half they call it, right? You come out for 5 minutes for the shower, and then they open the door 3 times to give you your meal. And yeah, after 3 months, I was basically oh, well then fuck y'all, basically. I'm not, why would I cooperate? Like, if I'm going to be here forever, then I'm taking everybody with me. That was my mentality. And like I would literally, the guards would come in and I'd start hitting them and stuff. I'm like, this is not, I'm not going to cooperate. I'd start getting fights with everybody. I'd antagonize people. They'd have to take me out and put me in they'd have to take me out of my cell and put me in the hole, which is like a concrete room with like a concrete slab and a toilet. And like, that's it. And I remember they would put me on Paxil and stuff. Yeah. And then eventually, after 8.5 months, I eventually get out. How do I get out? So let's talk about a couple things that happened when I was there. First, I had to see a psychiatrist. His name was Dr. Crow. And I remember it was kind of like all the other psychiatrists. Basically, the way I dealt with psychiatrists is I would ask them questions the whole time. Like that's just what I did. Like, I was that guy. And I remember he was like a really old. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's probably not alive now, so I don't think he'll ever hear this. But he was one of those guys where it's like, they have a name or a pet, but they also look like the name of the pet. So he was like an old white dude. He's really kind of lanky. His name was Dr. Crow, and he kind of looked like an old crow. And that's not meant to be like an insult. It's just, right? And he was like the psychiatrist I had to see. I also had to see I don't know what you call it, like the dude who decides whether you leave or not, like a counselor type deal. And his name was Mr. Suleimani. Now I didn't recognize what his name. When I was there, I called him Mr. Sudamani. Mr. Sudamani. Hey, Mr. Sudamani. Right? Because I didn't know. I mean, I was 12. I didn't know how to pronounce, whatever. But more importantly is that I'm pretty sure he was Muslim, but I didn't know anything about any of that at the time. Which is, it's kind of neat when I get done telling this story, you'll see how it kind of connects. So I had to see Mr. Suleiman, and he was pretty cool. Right? Like, I was on track. Like, eventually, I kind of found out that the longest that they could keep me there was 11 months and 29 days. So, right, just up to 1 day less of a year. So I eventually found that out, and then I started, trying to be a little nicer, but I was still kind of in a, fuck it mode. But then he was like leaving, and it was going to be somebody else. And his replacement was this woman. And, I try not to be mean. I try not to be judgmental. But this woman was like the most stereotypical. She was like easily in her 40s. She was white. She was devastatingly overweight. And I'm pretty sure like she was on like some kind of like hardcore feminist, doesn't like men or boys or children at all type of thing. And she was very controlling. Like, she would literally say, you're not leaving this place until you come in to the meetings, you sit how I tell you to sit, you answer the questions I tell you to answer, you participate the way I tell you to participate, and if you don't do what I say, then you're never leaving. Like, that was her attitude. And I remember just straight up, like, I had a foul mouth back then. I called her all kinds of stuff, and I refused to go to her meetings. Because I was like, I'm not doing your... Even thinking about it, I gotta be careful not to cuss. I was like, I'm not doing your stuff. Like, I don't know what you think this is, woman, but it is not what you think it is. Yeah, that was my attitude at 12, 13. So I didn't participate. Yeah. And but eventually it was coming to the last few days of Mr. Soleimani being there. And I remember pretty much exactly what I told him. So it was the last day, or the day before the last day he was going to be there. And I threw the biggest fit. Like, I kicked on this big metal steel door so hard for like hours that the bottom hinge broke. Like, that's how much I was kicking it. And eventually he came and spoke to me. And he was like, "What's up? What do you? It's 11. It's 11 p.m. or it's about 10 p.m. What are you doing? What's all the commotion?" And I straight up told him, I was like, "This fat bee is trying to keep me here, and I don't need to be here. I was supposed to be gone after 3 months. It's been 8.5 months. Am I going to be here the whole time? What the F is going on?" And I kid you not, he says, "Let me look into it." He goes, comes back an hour and a half later at 12:30 p.m. and he's like, "You're leaving. You're leaving at 2 p.m. 2 a.m. So pack your stuff." Like, shit. Pack your stuff. You're leaving. And oh my God, I was packed so fast. I think I even made my bed. And I just sat I just sat on the bed like, I'm leaving. It's finally happening. I'm getting the flip up out of here. And then I get out. I don't remember much after getting out. I remember being in the van and driving to juvenile hall. And I probably can remember what road I was going down even. And I just remember sitting in the van and like seeing the sunrise and shit. It was great. But that's kind of the short of it. More stuff went on, like individual things. Like, for example, for a little while I wasn't going to school in the place. And I remember all I did was sit in school and draw Dragon Ball Z characters. Because I was into Dragon Ball Z at the time. But I didn't really, pay attention or anything. I messed with people a lot. I remember distinctively there was these two guys. One was like, there were these two black guys. One was like he was fat. And another one was like kind of skinny. And they were from Delaware. And they robbed a bank on they had like Uzis and they robbed a bank on bicycles. And I remember, I'm trying to think. So, there's been a couple times where I've said certain racial words just to piss people off when I was younger. And I'm trying to think, it's only been a couple times, and I'm trying to think if this was one, because there was the skinny guy I just mentioned. He came into my cell one time when the doors were unlocked, and he just busted me in the face. Like, he came in, BAP! And then left. And I'm trying to think if that was because I was antagonizing him and I said something. I mean, obviously I said something, but I'm trying to think if it was because I was using a slur of some type. I don't think it was. Huh. I remember there was this one guy. I don't know how old he was, but everybody here was under age 18, right? So he wasn't that old. And he was like a full-on skinhead. Like, this guy hated, he was a tall, skinny white dude. And he was like a full-on skinhead. He hated black people, and he would say it and shit. And I remember thinking That's real dumb to say, because, I mean, this is Memphis. It's like, I think when I was locked up there, maybe 5 white people were there, white kids, maybe. And this unit had, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, yeah, 7, maybe 8 units. And each unit had 24, I want to say, cells, or 27 cells, right? And I think all of them were full except for like the last one on the very end wasn't very full. And yeah, there was like maybe 5 white guys there, because there was a couple times where I'd, get to go out, right? It was rare, but it happened. And also whenever I went to see a counselor or had a visitor, I would come out. What else? There was one guy, he was pretty cool. Taught him to play chess. Or no, I taught another guy to play chess, and he was even better than me at it after a while. And then he had a friend, I can't remember any of these guys' names. There was this one guy, he was pretty cool. What he did wasn't cool. I think they kidnapped somebody, and I don't know if they killed him or they just had him in like the trunk of his car. Because they kidnapped somebody and the dude was in the trunk, who they took was in the trunk of his car. And remember, everybody here is below the age of 18. And I don't know if he was, I don't know if it was a murder thing or if it was just like kidnapping. I know the 2 bank robbers, I think one of them had a murder charge. Like, they were going to be in there for, like, a long-ass time, right? Because as soon as they turn 18, they get transferred to, quote-unquote real jail. And by the way, that's BS. It's the same thing. In fact, if I was in adult jail, I'd probably have more freedoms than when I was in STC. 100%, right? You're in a room for 23 hours a day and 30 minutes. How is it easier or, less intensive than a quote real jail? Like, it's the same shit. So, what else? I've been talking for 27 minutes. So, anyways, that's just some stuff about that, and kind of the moral of this story. Like, what was the effect that this had on me? It had several effects. First, it taught me that the system really is not on your, like, they're not on your side. They're going to try to, like, judges, counselors, lawyers, whatever, the police, they're going to try to do whatever they can to ensure that you are not aware of what your rights are and what, like, they don't want you to evade. Like, they you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to tell you can defend yourself, for example. Like, you have to already know that shit. They're going to try to keep you as long as they can for basically selfish reasons. Because I'm positive that in adult prisons, it's kind of the same thing. You have some counselor or guy you have to talk to who helps you out, quote unquote, to, help you do what you need to do so that maybe you can reduce your sentence, get, on good behavior, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Especially if there's like a mental component, because I had ADHD at the time and I was considered manic depressive, so there was that as well. Yeah, they don't really care, right? They can lie about how long you're going to be there, right? Because that was a lie. Like, he said, the judge literally told me to my face, "You're going to be there 3 months." I was there for 8.5. That was a lie. Like, just, it kind of taught me that you really, you can't rely on, like, the government or the government or the system or the police or whatever. Like, they're not looking out for your best interest. They're truly not. And it also taught me that one of the big lessons I learned was that if you want to free yourself from something, you have to do it yourself. Because I didn't get out until I threw a fit. Now, granted, I threw a fit, but I was 13 years old and I was locked in a room. What else am I going to do? But, like, bang on shit. But yeah, until I decided to act and, like, throw enough of a fit and, you know, by chance, my counselor, or my counselor was there, that's how I got out. I didn't get out because I went through the system and, like, did what everybody told me. You know, I didn't get out because, you know, I had, you know, money or, like, I had some kind of influence or something. No, I got out because I fought for it. Right? And I did it in a childish way then, but I was a child. Right? If it was me today, I would not expect to get out of prison by kicking on a door. Right? The fight would take some other form, but you have to fight, right? It's not, you know, nobody cares. Nobody's going to do anything for you. You have to do it yourself. And that kind of mentality has really, I mean, just, you know, like the video I made about the organization stuff. Like, me doing all of that comes from this kind of, this experience, right? I mean, I've had other experiences that contributed to my mentality. But, I mean, this was one of the big ones, right? And it happened, you know, age 12, 13, right? Like, right when I was becoming basically accountable. You know, it's part of why I have the mentality I have about, you know, just a lot of things. It's definitely been like a primary contributor. And just, you know, like I said, we're at 32 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up. But like I said, I don't blame my mother or anything. I don't, you know, it's, you know, she wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not, you know. I had that experience, so I know if I have kids, I'm not going to send them to. I wouldn't call the police on them. I would never send them to any of those kind of places, because I know what it's like to be there. She doesn't, right? So there's nothing to blame or, like, you know, it is what it is, right? There's probably more I could talk about. But nothing's really coming to mind right now, so I might do some episode. I probably will do some episode in the future, covering this again. But anyways, yeah, the place is still there. I'm actually attempting, or I'm going to be in the process soon of trying to get my records, because I want to see what the counselors and everybody said about me. I kind of want to get all of my medical records, and especially anything having to do with any psychiatrist, to see what did they say. But anyways, I got stuff to do, so I'm going to call it peace for now, and I will talk to you guys next time I talk to you. Anyways, Jeff out.